Every town has its heroes, the quiet ones, the stoic figures who stand on the thin blue line, ever watchful, ever vigilant. For the sleepy, picturesque town of Havenwood, nestled like a forgotten jewel in the verdant embrace of the Pacific Northwest, that hero was Officer Jacob Miller. But his greatest act of heroism wouldn't be found on a police report, or in the headlines of a local paper. 2 decades ago, a single, courageous choice transformed a lonely man's life, and in doing so, changed the destinies of 6 unwanted little girls. Girls whose resilience, spirit, and heritage would challenge Jacob Miller, shatter his world, and ultimately, fill it with an unbreakable love he never dared to dream of. He poured his heart into raising them, embracing their culture, fighting their battles, and facing down prejudice head-on. Now, decades later, as Jacob's own health falters, the daughters he rescued are grown, and how they repay him is a story that will leave you speechless. What moved Jacob to make such a monumental choice? How did his act of kindness ripple through their lives, turning pain into purpose and despair into determination? What happens when a man, once defined by his solitude, finds his entire universe in 6 vibrant, powerful black women? Stay tuned to find out. And before we dive into this incredible journey of love, resilience, and the enduring power of family, let us know where you're listening from today. If this story of courage, overcoming hardship, and finding belonging resonates deeply with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Because sometimes the most profound love stories are written not in fairy tales, but in the most unexpected corners of ordinary life. You'd see him, patrol car gliding silently down Main Street, a familiar silhouette against the backdrop of towering pines and the perpetually overcast sky. His uniform was always crisp, his movements precise, his gaze unwavering. For nearly 2 decades, Jacob had been the bedrock of Havenwood's peace, a man whose presence alone seemed to whisper, "All is well, you are safe." He knew every crack in the pavement, every rustle in the leaves of the ancient oak trees that lined Willow Creek, every secret shortcut through the quiet residential streets. The scent of pine and damp earth was as familiar to him as the hum of his patrol car. But if you looked closely, beyond the unwavering gaze, beyond the professional courtesy, you might catch it. A flicker of something profoundly solitary in his eyes. A silence that wasn't just the quiet of Havenwood nights, but the deep, echoing silence of his own home. You see, 10 years before our story truly begins, a shadow had fallen over Jacob Miller's life. Her name was Eleanor. Eleanor with a laugh like wind chimes and a heart as vast as the Pacific Ocean. Their love story wasn't a whirlwind romance. It was a quiet, steady current that deepened with every shared sunset on their porch. Every whispered dream beneath a blanket of stars. They were 2 halves of a whole, woven together by unspoken understandings and a shared vision of a future overflowing with laughter and tiny feet. Their home, a cozy craftsman on Maple Avenue, had been a vibrant canvas of their dreams. Eleanor had filled it with the scent of cinnamon and lavender, with sun-drenched watercolors and the promise of little shoes by the front door. They'd spent evenings poring over baby names, sketching nursery ideas, talking about school plays and scraped knees. That grand, beautiful, chaotic dream of a large family, it was their North Star. And then, one cruel, quiet morning, that star simply winked out. Eleanor was gone. With her, a part of Jacob died too. Not outwardly, he still reported for duty, still patrolled the streets, still offered a kind word to old Mrs. Henderson about her prize-winning roses. But the vibrant colors of his world faded to muted grays. His perfectly preserved home became a shrine to absence. Eleanor's side of the closet remained untouched, a phantom scent of her perfume lingering. The teacup she'd used that last morning still sat on the nightstand, as if waiting for her return, and the sunlight which once poured into their kitchen seemed to mock him with its brightness, illuminating only the emptiness. Jacob built walls around his heart then, thick and unyielding. The pain of loss was a monster he couldn't face again. He poured himself into his work, becoming an exemplary officer, a pillar of the community. But internally he was adrift, a vessel without a sail, his sense of purpose strictly confined to the gleaming badge on his chest. In the eyes of Havenwood, Officer Jacob Miller was a hero, a man who kept them safe. But in the desolate chambers of his own heart, he was a man unwritten, a story without a future. There was even a whisper of a past regret, a moment when he felt he could have done more, been more, for Eleanor, that silently gnawed at him, pushing him further into solitude. He was a guardian, yes, but for everyone else, never truly for himself. That was his life, a meticulously organized, emotionally barren existence. Until one Tuesday morning, the routine shattered. The call came in, jarring him from the familiar rhythm of his patrol. Not a fender bender, not a petty theft. It was a welfare check. A dilapidated apartment complex on the outskirts of Havenwood, a place the town preferred to forget existed. As he pulled up, the scene was already chaos. Sirens wailed softly in the distance. A small crowd had gathered, faces etched with curiosity and concern. The air hung heavy with the smell of dampness, neglect, and something else. A raw, palpable fear. Inside, the sight hit him like a physical blow. 6 pairs of wide, terrified eyes stared back at him from the dim light of the living room. 6 small bodies, huddled together, like a cluster of fragile saplings in a storm. They were beautiful, bewildered little girls, their faces streaked with tears, their clothes rumpled and worn. Serena, the oldest, no more than 12, tried to project strength, her arms wrapped protectively around Faith, the youngest, a tiny girl clutching a faded teddy bear. Jacob, hardened by years of responding to every kind of human tragedy, felt an unfamiliar tremor in his chest. This was different. This wasn't a crime scene he could process with detachment. This was pure, unadulterated vulnerability. He was a law enforcer, not a father. His mind raced, a flurry of chaotic thoughts. I can't. I'm a cop. I'm alone. I don't know how to raise children, let alone 6 of them. And they're so different from me. The unspoken hung heavy in the air, a silent acknowledgement of the racial difference that added another layer to his profound discomfort and inexperience. These children, the social worker, Miss Jenkins explained, were unwanted, a phrase that clawed at Jacob's soul. Their parents had been tragically killed in an accident, no living relatives could be found, and the system was overwhelmed. Shelters were full. A group of 6 siblings, especially of their background, were unplaceable, unwanted. The word echoed in the silence of the room, a cruel label for such fragile lives. Ms. Jenkins, a woman whose face was etched with the weary lines of years spent battling bureaucracy and heartbreak, looked at Jacob with sharp, probing eyes. "Officer Miller," she said, her voice dry, "with all due respect, you're a single man, no prior experience, and these children, they have specific cultural needs. Are you truly prepared for this?" Jacob felt a prickle of defensiveness, but beneath it, a strange, undeniable pull. He looked at Faith, still clinging to Serena, her tiny thumb in her mouth. Then, Faith lifted her head, her big brown eyes, swimming with fear, met his, and in that raw, primal moment of connection, something shifted inside Jacob. A flicker of purpose, long extinguished, began to glow. This wasn't just a duty, this was a chance at something more. His partner, Officer Ben Carter, pulled him aside, his voice laced with genuine concern, maybe even blunt disbelief. "Jacob, are you out of your mind? 6? You can barely keep a houseplant alive. What are you thinking?" Jacob wasn't thinking, he was feeling. He was seeing Eleanor's face in his mind's eye. A silent question, a gentle nudge. Would she be proud? Or would she think he was insane? He took a deep breath, the scent of neglect still in the air, mixed with a faint, hopeful trace of something undefinable. He walked back to Miss Jenkins' desk, the ink still wet on the adoption papers. The pen felt heavy in his hand, weighted with the magnitude of his decision. He wasn't just signing a document, he was signing away his old life, his solitude, his carefully constructed walls. He was making a silent promise, not just to these 6 bewildered little girls, but to himself. A promise that perhaps, just perhaps, life could be written anew. He didn't know then the colossal challenges that lay ahead. He didn't know about the hair care, the mealtime chaos, the whispers of prejudice that would follow them. He didn't know the depths of his own capacity for love, or the incredible ways these 6 unwanted souls would repay him. But in that single, audacious leap of faith, Officer Jacob Miller, the quiet guardian of Havenwood, had just begun to write the most extraordinary chapter of his life. Even in the deepest valleys of personal loss, a flicker of purpose can ignite from the most unexpected source, demanding a leap of faith into the unknown. True heroism often begins not with a grand act, but with a single courageous choice of the heart. The ink on the adoption papers was barely dry, but the moment Jacob Miller pulled his patrol car into the driveway on Maple Avenue, a profound truth settled over him. His perfectly ordered, meticulously clean home, a silent monument to his solitude, was about to be utterly, irrevocably, gloriously transformed. The quiet hum of the refrigerator, the solemn tick of the grandfather clock in the hall, these were about to be drowned out by a symphony of new sounds. The first night was and education. Jacob, a man whose evenings typically involved a quiet dinner, a book, and the distant murmur of a police scanner, found himself orchestrating a chaotic ballet of 6 tired, bewildered little girls. The silence he'd grown accustomed to was instantly replaced by unfamiliar rustlings in the night, the soft whimpers of children missing their parents, the occasional whispered conversation. His once immaculate living room, usually reserved for the stern lines of a newspaper, was now strewn with hastily unpacked bags, a forgotten doll, and a pair of tiny sneakers. Every corner, every surface, seemed to suddenly vibrate with a new, unpredictable energy. Take, for instance, the legendary hair care debacle. Jacob, a man whose personal grooming routine consisted of a 5-minute buzz cut, found himself staring in bewildered awe at Naomi's intricate braids. Naomi, the artistic one, usually so quiet, was tearful and frustrated as Jacob, armed with YouTube tutorials playing softly on his phone and a comb he'd never known existed, fumbled through her thick curly hair. He'd never considered the sheer science involved in detangling, sectioning, and braiding. There were knots, there were tears, mostly Naomi's, but Jacob was close, and there were definitely some lopsided attempts that looked more like a bird's nest than a beautiful braid. "Dad," Naomi had sighed, exasperated, "it's not a hat. It's my hair." Jacob just chuckled, a genuine rumbling laugh that startled himself. He looked at her, truly looked, and saw not just a challenge, but a small, brave spirit waiting for him to learn. He kept trying, day after day. Slowly, clumsily, he learned. He learned about conditioners and special brushes, about patience and gentle hands. Those fumbling attempts, those shared giggles over his mistakes, became a symbol. They weren't just about hair. They were about Jacob's willingness to step outside his comfort zone, to humble himself, to learn the intimate, daily rhythms of loving 6 girls who were so different from anything he'd ever known. He was no longer just a cop. He was a student of fatherhood, and his daughters were his most patient, albeit demanding, teachers. Mealtimes, once predictable, became adventures, from structured, quiet meals to catering to 6 different tastes and dietary needs, or lack thereof initially, and the sibling squabbles. Serena, the eldest, tried her best to maintain order, but Jacob quickly learned that police training didn't cover mediating a fierce debate over who got the last cookie, or why Destiny, the athlete, had borrowed Grace's favorite book without asking. He was no longer just the town's law enforcer. He was a negotiator, a comforter, and, more often than not, a very bewildered referee. He was learning that parenting wasn't a by-the-book manual like police procedure. It was a fluid, intuitive, emotionally driven dance, and he was very much still learning the steps. But it wasn't just about mastering braids or mediating arguments. Jacob quickly realized a deeper truth. These girls, his daughters, carried with them a heritage, a culture that was entirely new to him. Havenwood, for all its charm, was predominantly white, and Jacob knew deep down that he was missing a crucial understanding of his daughters' experiences. He couldn't teach them about a world he didn't fully comprehend. He needed more than just a guidebook, he needed a community. His first step was daunting. He walked into the Havenwood Community Church, a vibrant hub of the town's black community, feeling like an outsider in his own town. The initial awkwardness was palpable, the curious glances. Jacob, always the one in control, felt disoriented, almost vulnerable. He was used to observing from the outside, enforcing rules. Now, he was actively seeking to become an insider, a learner. Driven purely by the fierce, protective love he already felt for his girls. That's where he met Sister Miriam, a woman whose presence commanded respect, her eyes twinkling with a wisdom that transcended age. Sister Miriam didn't immediately offer help. She observed. She'd invite him to community events, quietly watch him interact with his daughters, perhaps even give him a small task like helping set up chairs. She wasn't just going to hand over advice, she was guiding him to discover it himself through genuine engagement. Through Sister Miriam, Jacob began to truly understand. He listened to stories of resilience, of cultural traditions, of the vibrant history that flowed in his daughter's veins. He learned about community networks, about the importance of shared heritage. The girls, too, began to blossom within this new space. They saw reflections of themselves, learned new songs, new dances, new stories. For the first time since their tragedy, they found a sense of belonging, a crucial piece of their identity gently slotting into place. And as Jacob immersed himself, Havenwood slowly began to shift its gaze. In a town where everyone knew their neighbors, it often felt like everyone was watching. The subtle glances, the hushed conversations, the hesitant smiles. Old Mrs. Davies, the proprietor of the general store, a woman known for her keen observations and even keener gossip, had initially made pointed comments about Officer Miller's new responsibilities. But slowly, imperceptibly at first, things began to change. Small acts of kindness started to appear: a casserole left on the porch, a dropped-off bag of hand-me-down toys. These weren't grand gestures, but they were significant. They represented a thaw, a slow acceptance. Then came the true turning point. At the annual Havenwood Fall Fair, a woman who had once been heard making a disparaging comment about the different family on Maple Avenue saw Naomi's vibrant artwork displayed in the community tent. She saw Destiny's athletic grace on the basketball court and heard Grace's quiet brilliance in the school's spelling bee. She saw them not as a group of unwanted children, but as individuals full of light and talent. Later, Jacob overheard her defending his family to another curious neighbor. "You know," she said, her voice softer than Jacob had ever heard it, "Officer Miller, he's doing something truly remarkable. Those girls, they're just light. And they're Havenwood's light now, too." The initial skepticism and ingrained biases in the town had stemmed from fear of the unknown, but Jacob's consistent love, his willingness to learn, and the girls' growing confidence slowly dismantled those barriers. It showed the profound power of genuine connection over ingrained prejudice. Jacob Miller, the stoic cop, had been a guardian of peace. Now he was becoming a weaver of a new tapestry, a father learning the intricate, beautiful rhythm of unconditional love. He was building not just a home, but a family. One braid, one shared meal, one whispered story at a time. But the journey was far from over. The world, outside the loving embrace of their burgeoning home, still held shadows, and those shadows would soon come knocking, challenging the very foundation of the unbreakable bonds he was trying to forge. Love often begins as an act of will, but it blossoms into genuine connection through shared vulnerability, laughter, and the humble willingness to learn new rhythms. True family embraces not just individuals, but their entire heritage. Building bridges across cultural divides requires humility, listening, and a genuine willingness to step into another's world. Prejudice thrives in silence and ignorance. It often takes consistent, compassionate action and the open display of love to dismantle societal barriers and foster true acceptance. Life in the Miller household was finding its rhythm. The once silent halls now echoed with laughter, the aroma of diverse meals filled the kitchen, and Jacob's once empty heart now overflowed with a love he never imagined possible. But even in the tranquil embrace of Havenwood, shadows lingered. Shadows of prejudice, born from ignorance and fear, that would soon stretch beyond the comfortable walls of their home and demand to be confronted. Naomi, the quiet artist, was usually a whirlwind of vibrant colors and imaginative sketches. Her world was a kaleidoscope of possibility, expressed through her nimble fingers and boundless creativity. But one day the colors began to dim. Her usual effervescence faded, replaced by a quiet withdrawal. Her drawings, once bold and bright, became smudged, hesitant. Jacob, with his newfound parental radar, noticed the way she'd flinch when he asked about school, the way her shoulders slumped as she picked at her dinner. It wasn't long before the truth, raw and painful, came to light. Naomi was being targeted, not with overt violence, but with something far more insidious: the cold, sharp edges of prejudice. Children, mimicking unspoken biases they absorbed from who knows where, had begun to exclude her. Whispers in the hallways: "Why does she talk like that? Her hair looks weird." Little acts of sabotage. Her artwork, displayed proudly on the classroom wall, found crumpled in a locker. Her lunchbox, filled with food from a culture they didn't understand, mocked. One day, a group of older kids had deliberately spilled paint on her favorite sketch pad, laughing as the vibrant colors bled into a muddy mess. Naomi, usually so articulate in her drawings, struggled to explain the sting. They just don't like me," she'd whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "Because I'm different." Jacob, despite his years of policing, felt a sickening lurch in his stomach. He dealt with physical violence, with tangible threats, but this was an unseen wound, festering in his daughter's spirit. His initial thought was that kids will be kids, a common, dangerous mistake. But then he saw the deep hurt in Naomi's eyes, and Serena, her older sister, explained the insidious nature of the racial slurs and exclusions. Jacob realized he was out of his depth. This wasn't just about schoolyard squabbles, it was about the insidious creep of hate. The next morning, Jacob shed his uniform and put on his father hat, a much more formidable one, he realized. He marched into the Havenwood Elementary School principal's office, not as Officer Miller, but as Naomi's father. His voice was measured but firm, the kind of quiet authority that demanded attention. He didn't just demand punishment for the bullies, he demanded understanding. He spoke about systemic issues, about the need to educate not just the students, but the teachers, about the subtle biases that could fester into overt prejudice. He presented not just Naomi's tearful testimony, but insights he gleaned from Sister Miriam about the long-term effects of such bullying on children of color. That night, back home, Jacob sat with Naomi. He didn't just tell her it'll be okay. He listened to her pain, acknowledged her fear. He taught her about resilience, about the rich tapestry of her heritage, about finding strength and pride in her identity. "You're different, sweet pea," he told her, gently touching her beautiful braided hair. "Is your superpower. Don't let anyone ever make you feel small for it." It wasn't a single lecture. It was the beginning of an ongoing, vital dialogue that would empower Naomi, little by little, to reclaim her vibrant colors. But the shadows didn't retreat so easily. As the girls entered their teenage years, the challenges of identity intensified. Destiny, the athletic powerhouse, began to feel the weight of being different in a deeper, more existential way. It wasn't just bullying, it was a pervasive sense of not truly belonging in Havenwood, of being an outsider looking in. The quiet, idyllic town which Jacob cherished now felt stifling, even alien to her. Her rebellion wasn't a sudden explosion, but a gradual erosion of her usual sunny disposition. She started skipping basketball practice, hanging out with a different crowd from a neighboring, larger town, questioning Jacob's authority, and expressing a simmering frustration about Havenwood's perceived narrow-mindedness. She felt an ache for a world that truly understood her, a world that wasn't predominantly white. One evening, after a particularly tense argument about her grades and her new friends, Destiny lashed out, words fueled by years of unspoken frustration. "You don't get it, Dad," she screamed, her voice cracking with raw emotion. "You can't. You're white. You don't know what it's like to always be looked at, to feel like an exhibit, like I'm just the token black kid in your perfect white town." Jacob, who had faced down armed criminals without flinching, felt his heart clench. He was speechless, hurt, and for the first time, utterly helpless. How could he, a white man, truly understand the pain of being a black teenager in a world that often failed to see her? He felt inadequate, like he was failing her in the most fundamental way. He turned to Sister Miriam again, not for answers, but for understanding. He even reached out to a few black parents in Havenwood, humbling himself, admitting his ignorance, desperate to learn from their experiences. This pivotal moment transformed Jacob's parenting. He didn't just reprimand Destiny, he listened. He acknowledged her pain, her frustrations, and sought ways to help her connect with her heritage and community beyond Havenwood. He started taking her to larger cultural events in a nearby city, sought out a black coach who became her mentor, and together they visited historical sites relevant to black history. He wanted her to understand that her heritage was vast, proud, and extended far beyond the borders of Havenwood. This empathetic response, rather than purely disciplinary, allowed for a deeper healing, a rebuilding of trust. And the struggles of identity weren't confined to overt acts of prejudice. Each girl, in her own unique way, faced unseen battles, the weight of expectations. Serena, as the eldest, silently carried an immense pressure to be the perfect child, to set an example, to make Jacob proud. She might overstudy, participate in too many extracurriculars, or refuse to admit when she needed help, secretly battling anxiety. She felt a profound responsibility for the family's unconventional path. Grace, the quiet bookworm, faced intellectual isolation. She devoured complex literature but often felt misunderstood by peers who didn't share her depth of interest. She struggled with finding her voice in a world that prioritized popularity over profound thought. There was one time, a subtle microaggression in the library, a librarian perhaps unknowingly assuming she needed help with a simpler book, or dismissing her insightful questions. It was a small moment, but it left Grace feeling deeply invalidated. A bruise on her brilliant spirit that was hard for Jacob to see, let alone fix. And then there was hope, even at a young age, displaying the fiery spirit of her future activism. She challenged unfair rules at school, organized a small petition against a perceived injustice, and even dared to politely correct a teacher's misinformed statement. This often put her at odds with authority figures, and Jacob had to learn to navigate supporting her nascent passion for justice, while ensuring her safety and understanding the subtle line between advocacy and outright defiance. The Miller family, once isolated, was now intertwined with Havenwood's complex social fabric. Jacob, once merely an officer, was now a father, a student, and a quiet advocate, learning to navigate the subtle and overt shadows of prejudice that threatened his daughter's spirits. These battles, fought beyond the home, forged them. They were painful, often confusing, but they were also the crucible in which their unbreakable bonds were tempered, preparing them for an even greater test that lay just around the corner. Adolescence is a crucible of identity, made even more challenging when navigating a world that doesn't always see you. True parental love requires listening with an open heart, acknowledging pain, and empowering children to embrace their authentic selves. Prejudice thrives in silence and ignorance. It often takes consistent, compassionate action and the open display of love to dismantle societal barriers and foster true acceptance. The challenges of identity, belonging, and prejudice manifest differently for each individual. Understanding and supporting our loved ones requires recognizing and validating their unique struggles, even when they are unspoken. Life has a way of throwing its greatest challenges at you when you least expect them. Jacob Miller, the rock of his family, the unwavering protector, had faced external battles, the prejudice, the societal whispers, the teenage angst. He thought he was prepared for anything. But the next battle wouldn't come from outside. It would come from within, striking at the very heart of their fragile, hard-won happiness. It started subtly, insidiously. A persistent cough Jacob dismissed as a lingering cold, a fatigue he attributed to long shifts and the endless energy required to parent 6 vibrant girls. He was a man of routine, of self-discipline, and he simply pushed through it, a silent war being waged within his own body. He'd always been the strong one, the one who bore the burdens. How could he possibly show any weakness, especially now, when his daughters had finally found their anchor? He tried to hide it, of course. He'd excuse himself from the dinner table to cough quietly in the kitchen, feign tiredness to avoid family outings, or claim he was just getting older, when Faith, his youngest, noticed his hands trembling slightly as he poured his coffee. He was so focused on being their shield, he became blind to his own vulnerability. The truth, however, could not be hidden forever. A routine checkup turned into a series of urgent tests. The fluorescent lights of the doctor's office seemed to dim as the words hung in the air, heavy and unforgiving. Stage 3 lung cancer. Jacob felt a cold dread, a familiar despair that mirrored the day Eleanor was gone, but this time it wasn't for himself. His first, overwhelming thought was of his daughters. How could he leave them? How could he, after promising them a safe harbor, possibly abandon them again, even through no fault of his own? He felt like he was failing them, betraying the unspoken trust they had placed in him. The years of quiet stress, perhaps neglecting his own health for the sake of his duties and his burgeoning family, had finally caught up. It was a cruel irony. In giving so much, he had inadvertently taken from himself. The girls found out, not through a sit-down conversation, but through the sharp intuitive senses of a family living in close quarters. Serena, ever vigilant, overheard a hushed phone call between Jacob and Officer Carter, the word cancer chilling her to the bone. Destiny noticed the new pill bottles, carefully hidden but not quite out of sight, and little Faith, with the innocent honesty only a child possesses, simply looked at her dad one morning, her brow furrowed, and asked, "Daddy, are you going to be sick like Mommy was?" The moment of revelation was gut-wrenching. Jacob, stripped of his stoic facade, finally had to tell them. He saw the shock, then the fear, bloom in their eyes. But then, something else emerged. Not despair, but an immediate, fierce protectiveness. They were no longer just children, they were becoming his guardians. The household, which had transformed from a quiet space to a vibrant home, now became a bustling command center of care. The roles shifted, profoundly and beautifully. Jacob, always the strong one, had to learn to receive. Serena, the pragmatic leader, became the chief of operations. She took charge of appointments, meticulously organized his medication schedule, and ensured every sister did their part. She became the rock, the anchor, holding her sister steady amidst the storm. Naomi the artist found a new canvas. She created calming, beautiful drawings to adorn Jacob's room, transforming it into a sanctuary. She even began a visual journal of his journey, a poignant, unspoken narrative that helped them all process the fear and uncertainty. Her art, once an escape, now became a source of comfort and connection. Destiny, the disciplined athlete, channeled her boundless energy and strength into practical support. She researched nutritious meals, often spending hours in the kitchen experimenting with healthy recipes. She helped Jacob with his physical therapy, her strong hands gently guiding him through exercises, pushing him when he felt he couldn't go on, all with the unwavering focus of a true champion. Grace, the quiet bookworm, became their medical Sherlock Holmes. She devoured medical journals, researching alternative therapies, asking informed, incisive questions during doctor's visits that even surprised the medical staff. Her sharp intellect, once a source of quiet solitude, now became a beacon of hope and knowledge, a weapon in their fight. Hope, with her natural empathy and burgeoning activist spirit, became Jacob's emotional cheerleader. She organized small fun activities to distract him from his pain, read to him from his favorite books, and used her innate ability to make him laugh, even on the darkest days. She was a constant source of positive energy, a reminder of the joy still present in their lives. Faith, the youngest, often simply clung to Jacob. Her innocence, her unwavering faith in her daddy, became a powerful reminder of what he was fighting for. Her small, warm hand in his, a quiet hug, a whispered "I love you, Daddy," these simple gestures provided profound comfort, anchoring him to the present, to the love that transcended pain. It was during this harrowing period that the deepest wounds began to heal, particularly between Jacob and Destiny. One night, after a particularly grueling round of chemotherapy, Jacob was weak and despondent. Destiny sat by his bed, holding his hand. Tears streamed down her face. "Dad," she choked out, "I'm so sorry for everything I said, for making you think I didn't belong. You gave us everything. You're the reason I even know what belonging feels like." Jacob, though frail, managed a weak smile. "Destiny," he whispered, his voice raspy, "you never had to be sorry. You were just finding your voice. And I learned from you too. You taught me what it means to truly listen. I'm so incredibly proud of the woman you're becoming. And you belong. You always belong." It was a tear-jerking moment of raw honesty, where years of unspoken frustrations melted away, replaced by the pure, unadulterated love of a father and his daughter. Destiny died. He replaced by the pure, unadulterated love of a father and his daughter. The earlier rebellion wasn't just forgiven, it was understood, accepted, and became a testament to their enduring bond. Jacob, the unwavering protector, had become the one in need of protection. He had once cared for them as helpless children. Now they, as emerging adults, were caring for their vulnerable father. This was the ultimate test, the crucible of their love. And as the family rallied around him, a silent vow passing between them all, they discovered a strength, a unity, a profound depth of love that would carry them through the darkness and prepare them for a moment that would etch their story into the heart of Havenwood forever. The stage was set for a miracle, and a celebration unlike any other. In our deepest moments of vulnerability, the true measure of love reveals itself not just in grand gestures, but in the collective strength, unwavering care, and profound empathy of those we call family. The greatest healing often occurs not through grand gestures, but in the quiet, honest moments of forgiveness and understanding. A life of service and giving can sometimes lead to neglecting oneself, highlighting the importance of self-care, even amidst profound dedication to others. And so, against all odds, the Miller household began to blossom. Jacob, once a solitary figure, found his purpose in the laughter, tears, and unwavering spirit of his 6 adopted daughters. They had faced the whispers of judgment and the cold stares of prejudice, but with each passing day, their unconventional family proved that love, not blood, truly binds. Havenwood slowly but surely was beginning to see past their differences, witnessing the quiet revolution of acceptance unfolding right before their eyes. Yet the challenges they had overcome were merely a prelude to the true test of their bond, a trial that would push their love to its very limits. Just as the Millers found their rhythm, building a haven of love and understanding, fate dealt a cruel hand, threatening to shatter their newfound peace. What would happen when the man who held them all together faced his greatest battle yet? Would their resilient family, forged in compassion and strengthened by unity, endure the storm that lay ahead? The answers lay in the uncharted waters of Part 2. Where their courage would be tested, and their love irrevocably redefined. Officer Jacob Miller, a man accustomed to the quiet solitude of his life after a profound personal loss, found his world irrevocably changed when he made the courageous decision to adopt 6 unwanted orphaned girls. This monumental act of kindness plunged him into a whirlwind of unexpected challenges, from mastering intricate hair care routines to navigating the subtle yet pervasive whispers of prejudice in their small town of Havenwood. Despite the initial skepticism and his own inexperience, Jacob's unwavering love and his humble willingness to learn about his daughter's heritage slowly began to dismantle societal barriers, proving that genuine connection can conquer ingrained bias. However, the journey was far from over. Just as the Miller family began to find their rhythm and strength, a new, more insidious threat emerged, one that would strike at the very heart of their hard-won happiness and challenge the unbreakable bonds Jacob had so meticulously forged. How would this family, now united by love, face their greatest test yet. Stay tuned for part 2, where their resilience will be pushed to its limits, and the true measure of their extraordinary love will be revealed. The battle against cancer is a grueling marathon, not a sprint. For Jacob Miller, the years that followed his diagnosis were a testament to human resilience and the unwavering power of love. He faced countless treatments, each one a punishing blow to his body. There were days of crushing fatigue, moments of despair when he felt the fight draining from him, and setbacks that threatened to pull him back into the abyss. Yet, through every dark hour, the light of his daughter's love shone brightest. The girls were his constant companions. Serena meticulously organizing his countless medical appointments. Naomi sketching peaceful landscapes by his bedside, bringing a quiet calm to the sterile hospital room. Destiny, pushing him gently through his physical therapy, her athletic determination an inspiring force. Grace, reading aloud from her latest research, her voice a steady balm of knowledge. Hope, making him laugh with silly stories and endless optimism. And little Faith, simply holding his hand, her small touch a grounding comfort. They celebrated every small victory, a day without pain, a meal enjoyed, a brief walk in the garden, a flicker of his old humor returning. Each tiny step forward was a monumental triumph, a shared victory against a formidable enemy. Then, after 5 long, grueling years, the words came. Words that resonated like a heavenly chorus in their ears, echoing through the hospital room. "Officer Miller, you are in remission." A collective gasp, then tears. Not tears of sorrow, but of profound, overwhelming relief. Jacob, weaker, changed by the ordeal, but undeniably alive, looked at his daughters. He saw the sleepless nights, the unspoken fears, the quiet sacrifices etched on their faces, and in that moment, he truly understood the boundless depth of their love for him. He had given them a home, and in return, they had given him life. But the girls weren't finished repaying him, not by a long shot. They had a plan, meticulously crafted in hushed whispers and secret phone calls for a celebration unlike any Havenwood had ever seen. They wanted to honor the man who had given them everything, in a way that truly reflected the magnitude of his love. The day of the party, Jacob, expecting a quiet family dinner, walked through the door of the Havenwood Community Center. The lights were dim, the hall silent. He took a single step inside, and then, oh surprise, the lights flashed on, and a roaring cheer erupted. The hall was packed. Friends, neighbors, colleagues, even Mrs. Davies from the general store, whose face now beamed with genuine affection. Jacob stopped dead, tears blurring his vision. His daughters, their faces alight with joy, rushed forward, embracing him in a joyous tangle of limbs. It was an overwhelming, beautiful cacophony of love, a testament to how far they had all come. The evening was a blur of heartfelt greetings and warm embraces, but then, the lights dimmed again and a projector hummed to life. A video began to play, a montage of old photographs, of Jacob's younger days, of Eleanor, and then, the joyful chaos of 6 little girls entering his life. Overlaid were voices, weaving a narrative that brought tears to every eye in the room. First Officer Ben Carter, Jacob's longtime partner, his voice thick with emotion. "When Jacob told me his plan to adopt 6 kids, I thought he was crazy. I was wrong. Completely, wonderfully wrong. Jacob Miller taught me what true courage looks like, and what family truly means. He's more than a cop. He's a living legend." Then, Serena stepped forward again, a broad smile on her face. "And so, Dad," she announced, her voice ringing with pride, "to honor the man who gave us everything, to continue his legacy of love, we, your daughters, have established the Miller Family Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to helping other unwanted children find loving homes, just like you did for us." A wave of applause, shouts and cheers erupted. Jacob, tears streaming freely down his face, felt a warmth spread through him that transcended any pain or illness. His heart, once so desolate, was now full to bursting. This was it. This was the ultimate repayment. Not just their success, not just their love, but the continuation of his selfless act, multiplying its impact for generations to come. The night was a whirlwind of emotion, a powerful testament to the transformative power of one man's love. Jacob Miller had chosen to open his heart to 6 strangers, and in doing so, he had not only rebuilt their lives but had inadvertently rebuilt his own. He had created a legacy that would echo far beyond the quiet streets of Havenwood, a legacy forged in the purest fire of unconditional love. The stage was set for the next chapter, where the seeds of his sacrifice would bloom into a garden of success service, and enduring family bonds. The greatest legacy we can leave is not wealth or fame, but the ripple effect of love and acceptance, inspiring others to open their hearts and transform lives. Even the most hardened hearts can be softened by genuine kindness and the undeniable power of visible love. True repayment isn't about material gain, but about carrying forward the spirit of generosity and compassion that transformed your own life. The night of the tribute was more than just a celebration. It was a reaffirmation, a public declaration that love, forged in the crucible of hardship, was the most powerful force in Havenwood. With Jacob's health restored and his heart overflowing, the Miller family entered a new, vibrant chapter. The threads of their individual lives, once tangled and separate, now wove together into a magnificent tapestry, each color vibrant, each pattern unique, yet all part of a single, beautiful design. The years that followed saw the Miller sisters not just succeeding, but thriving. Each of them, shaped by Jacob's unwavering love and the battles they'd collectively faced, carried his legacy forward in their own powerful ways, transforming their personal struggles into profound tools for change. Serena, the calm and collected eldest, rose through the ranks of the social services system, eventually becoming the director of child services for the entire region. Her own childhood, marked by loss and the search for a home, gave her a unique, empathetic perspective. She never forgot what it felt like to be deemed unwanted. There was one case, a young boy about Faith's age when they were adopted, lost in a bureaucratic maze. Serena, armed with her experience and a quiet fierceness, cut through the red tape, ensuring he found a loving foster family, a sanctuary from the very system that had once nearly failed her and her sisters. She wasn't just doing a job, she was fulfilling a sacred promise. Naomi the artist truly found her voice. Her vibrant paintings, often incorporating themes of family, resilience, and the beauty of diverse cultures, gained national recognition. But she never forgot her roots. Her art wasn't just for galleries. She used her platform to raise awareness for social justice, often creating murals in underserved communities, powerful visual narratives that spoke to the very struggles she had faced as a child. One of her most celebrated pieces, The Unseen Embrace, depicted a figure with 6 smaller hands reaching out, capturing the essence of Jacob's quiet, steadfast love, and it became a symbol of hope for countless families. Destiny, the athlete, went on to become a celebrated basketball coach at a prominent university, but her coaching was about far more than just winning games. She instilled in her young athletes not only discipline and skill but also the invaluable lessons of resilience, teamwork, and emotional well-being. She'd share snippets of her own story, the feeling of being an outsider, the struggle for identity, to inspire her players to embrace their full selves. "It's not just about the points," she'd tell them. "It's about how you rise after every fall, how you lift each other up." And then, in a beautiful full-circle moment that brought tears to Jacob's eyes, Destiny gave birth to a healthy baby girl, whom she named Eleanor, a living tribute to the woman who had first dreamed of a big, bustling family in that quiet, Havenwood home. Grace, the quiet bookworm, emerged as a respected author, her novels delving into profound themes of identity, belonging, and social change. Her narratives often explored the complexities of found families and the quiet strength of marginalized voices. Her first published novel, The Havenwood Heart, drew heavily on her own experiences, albeit fictionalized, and quickly became a national bestseller, sparking conversations about adoption, racial identity, and the true meaning of home. A particularly poignant passage, which resonated with millions, described a child's quiet fear of never truly belonging, and the transformative power of a single, unexpected act of kindness. Hope, the passionate activist, became a tireless community organizer, her fire for justice burning brighter than ever. She championed for marginalized communities, fought for equitable housing, and organized initiatives to support vulnerable youth. Her unwavering commitment to social change eventually led her to run for city council, where she served Havenwood with fierce dedication, advocating for policies that directly addressed systemic inequalities and supported families like her own. She was a living testament to the power of a single voice, amplified by courage and a deep understanding of human dignity. And then there was Faith, the youngest, who, in a twist that warmed Jacob's heart beyond measure, joined the Havenwood Police Department. She wore the badge with a quiet pride, following in her father's footsteps but forging her own path. She was a different kind of officer, one who prioritized community engagement, empathy, and understanding, especially with young people of color. There was a moment early in her career when she de-escalated a tense situation with a troubled teenager, not with force, but with a quiet understanding born from her own childhood experiences. She saw beyond the uniform, saw the humanity, just as Jacob had taught her to. She was a living bridge between law enforcement and the community, a testament to the power of compassion in uniform. The Miller family home on Maple Avenue, once a quiet sanctuary, was now a vibrant hub of activity, filled with the joyful chaos of grandchildren. Jacob, now a beloved grandfather, would sit on the porch, watching the next generation play, his heart swelling with a profound sense of fulfillment. The laughter, the noise, the sheer beautiful normalcy of a bustling, loving family was a stark, joyous contrast to the desolate silence of his past. And through it all, the Miller Family Foundation flourished. What began as a heartfelt tribute had grown into a national force for good. Weaving through the lives of other children, another unwanted label shattered, another family finding its footing. There was the story of the Rodriguez siblings, 3 children from a broken home, facing separation. The foundation stepped in, providing resources, support, and advocacy, ensuring they stayed together, ultimately finding a loving home with a single father who, like Jacob, simply had a boundless heart. The ripple effect was undeniable, a living, breathing testament to Jacob's original act of courage. Jacob Miller had not just adopted 6 girls, he had sown seeds of love that had blossomed into a sprawling, vibrant garden. Each daughter, in her unique path, was a testament to his unwavering faith, his boundless patience, and his profound, life-altering love. Their success wasn't just personal achievement, it was the unfolding of a magnificent tapestry, woven with threads of sacrifice, resilience, and the enduring power of family. As the sun began to set on his own incredible journey, Jacob knew his story wasn't just about him anymore. It was about them, and their story, now intertwined with countless others, was a legacy that would continue to change the world, one heart, one home, one beautiful bond at a time. The final, profound lesson of his life was yet to be fully embraced as he prepared for a moment of quiet reflection that would tie all the threads together. A life lived with unconditional love creates a legacy that transcends generations, echoing through the lives it touches and inspiring endless possibilities. True purpose is often found not in what we receive, but in the profound impact we have on the lives of others. Our greatest battles, once overcome, can become the wellspring of our deepest compassion and the fuel for our most meaningful contributions to the world. Years melted into decades. The vibrant tapestry of the Miller family continued to unfold, thread by glorious thread. Jacob Miller, the man who had once faced an empty future, now found himself surrounded by the most extraordinary abundance. His home, once a silent sentinel to his grief, was now a bustling nexus of life, overflowing with laughter, warmth, and the irresistible energy of grandchildren. Then, Ms. Jenkins, the social worker who had once questioned his sanity, her voice now filled with awe. Officer Miller took on a challenge no one else would. He battled bureaucracy, he battled prejudice, and he battled his own fears. He proved that love, not bureaucracy, changes lives. He redefined what unwanted means. He closed his eyes, allowing the sounds of their happiness to wash over him. His life, he reflected, had been a journey of profound paradoxes. The initial emptiness after Eleanor's death had been a chasm. His decision to adopt, a terrifying leap into the unknown, fraught with fear and doubt. The countless challenges. The haircare fiascos, the mealtime chaos, the whispers of prejudice, the raw pain of his daughter's identity struggles, and the harrowing battle against his own illness. It had been a relentless uphill climb, yet, looking back, he wouldn't change a single step. He remembered the word Ms. Jenkins had used that fateful day: unwanted. 6 little girls, labeled and discarded by a system overwhelmed, but now, in the glorious, chaotic symphony of their lives, they were anything but. They were the most wanted, most loved, most valued people in his entire world. The system had tried to define them, but his love, their love, had completely redefined them. It was a profound, silent victory, won not with badges or laws, but with an open heart. He felt Eleanor's presence then, not as a sharp pang of grief, but as a gentle, warming embrace. He imagined her looking down, a soft smile on her face, knowing that the big, bustling family they had dreamed of had come to fruition, in a way neither of them could have ever foreseen. His life with Eleanor was a beautiful first chapter, but his life with his daughters, and now their children, was an epic unfolding saga of love. Jacob Miller's story, now shared with the world, is a profound testament to a truth we often forget in our busy lives. The greatest measure of a life well lived is not found in what we accumulate, but in the love we give, the lives we touch, and the ripples of kindness we set in motion. By choosing to open his heart to 6 unwanted little girls, Jacob had not only changed their lives, but had set in motion an unstoppable wave of love and acceptance that would continue long after he was gone. One late afternoon, as the Havenwood sun dipped below the distant peaks, painting the sky in hues of amber and rose, Jacob sat on the old porch swing of his expanded, beloved home. The scent of pine and damp earth still lingered, but now it mingled with the sweet aroma of baking cookies from the kitchen, and the distant giggles of his grandchildren playing in the yard. Serena, Naomi, Destiny, Grace, Hope, and Faith, his magnificent daughters, were gathered inside, their voices a comforting murmur, their lives vibrant testament to the choices he had made. Sister Miriam's wise, melodic voice followed. Brother Jacob, you came to us seeking understanding, and you brought light to lives that desperately needed it. You opened your home, and in doing so, you opened the heart of Havenwood. Your heart is a testament to God's love, a beacon for us all. And then, the unexpected twist, the one that left the entire room in hushed awe. Mrs. Davies, the once gossipy proprietor of the general store, appeared on screen. Her eyes were moist, her voice trembling slightly. I admit I judged, she confessed, her usual sharp demeanor softened by genuine emotion. I saw 6 little girls and I saw trouble. But watching them, seeing the love in that home, the way Jacob Miller embraced them, the way they blossomed, it made me look at my own heart. Officer Miller, you changed this town more than any badge ever could. You made us all better. It was a moment of profound redemption, a public acknowledgement that love, truly, could conquer all. After the video, the 6 sisters, now strong, confident young women, stepped forward. Each took turns, their voices clear and resonant, sharing a unique, deeply personal tribute to their father. Serena spoke of Jacob's unwavering presence, how he was always there, a steady hand guiding them through every storm. Naomi, her artistic spirit shining, thanked him for teaching her that her unique perspective was a gift, never a burden. Destiny, the athlete, spoke of his resilience, how he'd taught her to fight for what she believed in, on and off the court. Grace, the writer, recounted a specific moment when Jacob had stayed up all night helping her research a project, showing her the quiet power of knowledge and perseverance. Hope, the activist, shared how Jacob had always encouraged her to speak her mind, to stand up for justice, even when it was uncomfortable. Finally, Faith, the youngest, now a poised young woman, stepped forward, her voice thick with emotion. When Daddy found us, she began, her eyes locked on Jacob's. I was just a little girl, scared, lost. But he didn't just give us a house. He gave us a home. He didn't just give us food. He gave us nourishment for our souls. He didn't just give us a family. He showed us what unconditional love really means. He picked up 6 unwanted little girls, and he made us feel like the most wanted girls in the world. Perhaps you, listening to this story, carry the burden of loss, the weight of being unseen, or the scars of being hurt. Perhaps you too have felt like you've been deemed unwanted by the world, by circumstance, by a past mistake. But remember Jacob Miller. Remember Serena, Naomi, Destiny, Grace, Hope, and Faith. Their story is a living, breathing testament that every single one of us has the profound capacity to be wanted, to be loved, and to build a family, a true sense of belonging, not just by blood, but by the fierce, unwavering choice of the heart. And in that choice lies the power to not only change your world, but to send out ripples that can change the entire world around you. John Harris's unwavering love and the incredible bond he shared with his 6 adopted daughters led to a heartwarming transformation, not just in their lives, but in the hearts of all who witnessed their story. If Jacob Miller's journey of sacrifice, resilience, and boundless love moved you, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more uplifting stories of family, hope, and the incredible human spirit. And before you go, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What moment in Jacob and his daughter's journey resonated most with you? What would you have done if you were in Jacob's shoes? If Jacob Miller's journey of sacrifice, resilience, and boundless love moved you, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more uplifting stories of family, hope, and the incredible human spirit. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation of love and acceptance going.